They set out early that spring morning in Congaree National Park, the air still thick with dampness from overnight fog. For Rachel and Marcus, the boardwalk trail winding through the ancient floodplain forest had always been a sanctuary, a place to breathe, photograph, decompress from the city. That day, though, the boardwalk would become an arena, and they would meet a resident whose presence they'd never forget. They walked side by side, camera in hand, immersed in the symphony of woodpecker drumming and frog calls echoing across cypress knees jutting from the water. Towering trees arced overhead, branches interlacing like cathedral vaults, overhead beams of filtered sun warming the moss and ferns carpeting the forest floor. They passed beneath an enormous sweet gum, its leaves newly unfurled, chuckling at a pair of cardinals flitting through the branches. It was idyllic, the kind of morning that reminds you why you carry a camera everywhere. A quarter-mile in, they rounded a bend and halted abruptly. Rachel's breath caught. Ahead, the boardwalk sloped upward toward a small bridge, and blocking the entire path lay a monster of a reptile. Its vast form spanned nearly the width of the trail. Mossy, mottled, and motionless, it must have been 13 feet long. Head crush-width across the board, tail coiling beyond sight. Its eyes were half closed. Rain-slick scales shimmered, still wet from the early sun or the swamp water. The size alone was enough to stop their hearts. But the tail, gently rocking as if the creature were listening to footsteps, made it unmistakably alive. They stayed rooted. Marcus whispered, I've never seen an alligator that big." A childhood spent near Florida wetlands didn't prepare him for something this epic. Rachel fumbled for her camera, lens fogging. She managed a few frames before shifting to video, aware that time would steal both the moment and their perspective. Minutes ticked by in that surreal hush. No residents came, no footfalls echoed. It was just them and the gator, locked in mutual stillness. Finally, Rachel whispered, "We should call this in." They backed away carefully, found cell reception modestly down the trail, and phoned the park rangers, who listened closely. Officials deployed a crew, said they'd be there within the hour, but cautioned the hikers to stay put and keep a safe distance. Rachel and Marcus retreated to the edge of the forest. For over an hour, they waited, the boardwalk a stage for an unexpected performance. Alone on the winding trail, the gator remained impassive, unshaken by the arriving rangers, park staff, and curious hikers' peers approaching, but not too close. Chatter arose in whispers. "I've never seen one over 10 feet, someone murmured. "She's majestic," said an older visitor. The rangers arrived with binoculars, official vests, and measured clipboards. They peeked over the boardwalk side rails, instructing the crowd to stay back. "This is likely the largest gator ever recorded here," declared one ranger. Others pressed phones to collect pace builder shots. They radioed headquarters. "Approximate length 13 feet, give or take." Despite the fascination, the gator remained calm. It lifted its head slightly, blinked once, and stretched a clawed foot over the path. Then it rolled onto its side, tail sliding slowly around the side of the board. The crowd collectively exhaled. Some whispered theories. "It's nesting. She's claiming territory. It's a seasonal marking." Rangers nodded but offered no dramatic theories. Only quiet professionalism and expert spacing cones set up at each end of the boardwalk. Over 2 hours passed. The forest sang around them, woodpeckers drumming, cicadas humming. A breeze stirred the understory, and the gator seemed to bask, sun-dappled scales glinting. Families watched from respectful distance. The sun climbed, turning moss luminescent green. the sense of tension faded into reverent calm. At the 3-hour mark, 3 hours of fascinated but patient spectatorship, the alligator finally shifted. It raised its head firmly, stretched out its body in a long yawn that cracked jaws wide, revealing rows of teeth glistening. With languid power, it turned its shoulders and inched forward toward one end. Then, without hurry, it slid off the boardwalk and disappeared into the understory, the tail dragging in the water with a quiet splash. Silence followed, punctuated only by relieved gasps. The crowd exchanged awed murmurs. Rangers guided everyone forward, inspecting the dew-wet boards for signs of damage or nails disturbed. But the trail was intact. They reopened it less than 30 minutes later. Visitors filed again along the same path, now shadowed by the earlier presence of a once-in-a-lifetime natural event. Rachel and Marcus resumed their hike, hearts still pounding. They later learned the statistical oddity behind the story. While Congaree is home to healthy populations of gators, few exceed 12 feet. 13-footers are rare, the stuff of legend, and the one they met would likely be the largest officially documented there. Back at home, their media upload triggered excitement across wildlife and Florida-centered outlets. Rachel's footage went viral. Slow-motion close-ups of scales, the gator yawning, the final slide off the board. The story was embraced by researchers. Park biologists embraced the opportunity to study boundaries, habitat, trail use, and big reptile behavior. Some suggested liming trail timings later in the morning when gators are less active on land. Others called for interpretive signage. Home to occasional superstar gators, stay back from the boardwalk. Congaree welcomed the spotlight responsibly. For Rachel and Marcus, the event became a defining memory, sealed in each photo and frame. They didn't just find nature that day, they were found by it. They described the meeting as a moment of mutual respect, them visitors in its world, and it, the forest's apex hidden in plain sight. Neither they nor the gator intended to threaten. Instead, they shared a quiet encounter shaped by ancient patience, size, and calm. And the boardwalk, in its temporary blockade, became a portal into a world both wild and wondrous.